From Conflict to Calm, Part 1. Raven Eye stomped around his room in an absolute fury. Ah! He raged, sweeping toys and books off his desk, kicking them out of his path as he circled around the room like a whirling dervish. I hate everyone. I hate Mum and Dad. I hate all the boys at school. I hate not having everything I want. I hate this world. I hate life. Thumping the wall, he winced in pain, and yet carried on smashing away until his knuckles bled. Gosh, dear chap, that's an awful lot of hate for one so young. Raven Eye stopped in his tracks, eyes sweeping the room for the source of the voice. Who's that? He yelled, fists up in front of his face, ready for a fight. Allow me to introduce myself, said the voice from nowhere. I am known as Major Fairy Gnome. What sort of a name's that? Screeched Raven Eye, hopping from one foot to the other, head swinging this way and that. Get out of my bedroom, you stupid fairy thing. Well, I'm not actually in your bedroom, so it's going to be a tad difficult to get out of it, replied the voice calmly and rationally. So, where are you then? Because I can hear you as clear as day. Despite his fury and rage, Raven Eye was intrigued by this voice. Of course you can hear me, chuckled Major Fairy Gnome. I'm in your mind space. Well, what's left of it. It's rather crowded in here. Well, get out of my mind space, mumbled Raven Eye, not really meaning it, because he was secretly enjoying this interaction. What do you mean it's crowded in there? I mean, in here. Sadly, young fellow, I cannot get out of your mind space. In the here and now, you have trapped me here, because there is a huge battle ensuing. And to answer your second question, it's crowded in here because there is an army of conflicting thoughts, all battling with each other. You appear to have caused a war of wanting, and this has pulled me into your mind space to sort things out. Raven Eye stopped shadow boxing for a moment, his brow furrowed, deep in thought. Questions flew through his mind, so fast he could hardly speak. Oh no! Shouted Major Fairy Gnome. Fairy Gnome soldiers at the ready. There's more thought bombs coming in. What's that noise? Raven Eye covered his ears as his head filled with an almost unbearable screeching sound. You are hearing your own thought bombs, shouted Major Fairy Gnome above the screeching sound. Please do all you can to stop thinking for a moment. We are getting quite overwhelmed in here. Major Fairy Gnome sounded so desperate, it brought Raven Eye to his senses. Suddenly feeling very responsible for the war that appeared to be raging in his head, he slumped to the floor and, without warning, began to cry. Oh, that's better, dear chap. Let it all out. You've bottled up these feelings for so long, they are positively explosive. The crying technique is a great bomb diffuser. Gradually, the screeching in Raven Eye's head began to calm down, and he closed his eyes, feeling utterly exhausted. Everything went quiet, and for a moment, Raven Eye felt a sensation of peace all around him. Then, out of nowhere, the anger began bubbling up in him again. Try as he might, he couldn't stop the rising fury. We need to take some drastic action here, young fellow. Major Fairy Gnome's voice wafted gently through Raven Eye's mind. Things have gone far enough. It's time for you to sail the 7 seas. By this point, Raven Eye seemed to be all out of questions. Curling up in a ball, he mumbled, "Yeah, whatever. Can't be bothered fighting anymore." A tear trickled down his cheek and plopped on the floor, followed by more and more as the floodgates opened. "Ah, he's moving into surrender mode, chaps. There is a pool of ponderence forming. That should do the trick." Major Fearonome could hardly contain his excitement. "All you have to do, young fellow, is look into your pool of ponderence, and you'll be here in a jiffy." Raven Eye did not have a clue what Major Fearonome was asking him to do, and yet found himself being drawn to look into the pool of tears. His eyes were quite blurry from crying, and all he could see was water, shifting gently like a calm ocean. "That's the spirit, dear boy. Relax your eyes and keep staring at the water. He's coming in, chaps. Reception committee at the ready." Raven Eye still didn't have a clue what Major Fearonome was saying, and yet he was experiencing a strange sensation of being pulled into the water. "Either I'm shrinking or that pool is growing," he thought to himself, and yet even this thought seemed to dissolve in the water. With a deep sigh, Raven Eye closed his eyes and felt himself being immersed in the water. In no time at all, he was floating and being gently pulled down. "I feel so tired," he sighed, letting himself drift downwards in the water, relaxing more and more the further down he went. Raven Eye wasn't sure if he had fallen asleep, because the next thing he heard was a familiar, gentle voice. "Wake up, young man, you're here." Raven Eye opened his eyes to find himself in a stunning coral reef. "Wow, look at all the colours." "Yes, it's rather beautiful, isn't it? And so calm deep in the ocean of consciousness." Raven Eye swung his head towards the source of the voice, or should I say, his head gently turned, hair wafting gracefully around his face. "Who are you?" asked Raven Eye, in a voice that didn't appear to be coming out of his mouth. "Allow me to formally introduce myself." The bright yellow tiny being bowed low, his curly moustache brushing the seabed. "I am Major Fearonome, and before you ask, you are on the ocean of consciousness seabed, deep below the surface." "How am I managing to breathe?" Raven Eye's voice sounded quite different down here. Slow, deep, calm and gentle. "Oh, you don't need to breathe in the ocean of consciousness. It's quite different here in mind space." The Major smiled, patting Raven Eye on the shoulder. "And it's so much calmer down here, don't you think? This is the best place to be when a war is raging on the surface." Again, Raven Eye felt many questions bubbling up, and indeed, they quite literally bubbled up, drifting upwards towards the surface, soon disappearing in the vast ocean. It felt to Raven Eye as if it was best to remain silent and simply go with the flow. Major Fearonome certainly seemed to be in command of himself and know what he was doing. "Let's get right on it then." Major Fearonome marched over towards the coral reef. "Allow me to introduce your comrades for this journey. Meet the Fearonome soldiers." The Major held his arms out wide, and as he did, a blast of light rippled from the coral reef, almost blinding Raven Eye with its brightness. "We are soldiers of the Pheronome clan in No Man's Land, and are called upon when there are particularly ferocious mind battles to resolve." As Raven Eye's eyes adjusted to the bright light, his jaw dropped. All around him were thousands, if not millions, of tiny soldiers, all glowing brightly with a pure white light. All anger and fury had disappeared from Raven Eye as he gazed speechless at the vision before him. Yes, I can see you are quite overwhelmed at present, young fellow. However, there is no time to waste, no time to lose, and no time to think, so we'll get straight on with your basic training. You are now formally recruited as Private Pheronome and will be sailing the 7 seas with us. The Pheronome soldiers instantly transformed into the shape of a huge sailing ship, and that, Major Pheronome pointed towards the ship's sail, is Cape Ability. Wow, was all Raven Eye could muster from his inner voice in this moment. Major Pheronome pulled himself up to full height, which wasn't very tall. Your mission will be to defeat the battleships on the surface. Sadly, there are many battleships out on the ocean surface, so many in fact that a huge conflict is ensuing, and you are here to put a stop to it. How am I going to do that? A huge bubble escaped from Raven Eye's mouth. It's quite simple, really. The Major stared intently at Raven Eye. You caused the conflict, so you have to bring it to a peaceful resolution. What? How? When? A flurry of bubbles escaped from Raven Eye's mouth as he stared exasperatedly at the Major. It's not my fault. How can you say it's my fault? Everyone's always blaming me for things I haven't done. And therein lies the first lesson in your basic training, Private Pheronome. The Major appeared to be completely unfazed by Raven Eye's outburst. So, what's the first lesson? Raven Eye grumbled sulkily. Before we can attempt to go to the ocean surface, you must accept responsibility for what is going on out there, the Major responded forthrightly. There is no use in us even entering into this conflict until you can clearly see that you are the cause. Raven Eye folded his arms defensively. And that defensive manoeuvre certainly doesn't get us off to a good start. The Major leaned forward, emphasising his commanding voice. If you are to get anywhere with this conflict, it is vital that you trust me and follow my commands without question. Is that clear? Raven Eye was not used to this. Back home he had learned that if he was defensive and intimidating, this scared people away. He wasn't used to someone standing up to his rages, especially someone so tiny. So, are you with us or not? Major Pheronome leaned in even closer towards Raven Eye. You are fundamental to this mission. Without you, our actions will be futile. We will quite literally be fighting a losing battle. Despite the Major's severe tone, Raven Eye found himself being inspired by his words. Yes, I am with you, Raven Eye exclaimed confidently. And do you trust my word that you are responsible for this conflict and that you are also responsible and capable of a peaceful resolution? Yes, I do. Raven Eye found himself responding and truly meaning the words. I don't understand why I know I'm responsible. I just know somehow that I am. Bravo, dear chap. Major Pheronome clapped his hands in delight. You have passed your first basic training test. A loud cheer emanated from the Fearinome soldiers. Hurrah! Honesty and humility in capability. Major Fearinome saluted Raven Eye, and the ship's sail billowed its own salute. So, now we must move swiftly on to the second part of your basic training. The Major pulled out what appeared to be a scroll from inside his tiny yellow jacket pocket. The next test is for you to see your armour. Raven Eye punched the air in delight. Wow, that doesn't sound like much of a test. I've always wanted to have a suit of armour. Then I would look like a true knight warrior, and everyone would be too scared to challenge me. Let's see, shall we? The Major didn't sound anywhere near as enthusiastic as Raven Eye. So, here it is. As Major Fearinome spoke these words, the water began to ripple and change shape, right in front of Raven Eye. As the water massed together, it became darker and darker, until it transformed into a shiny black cloak. "Oh, cool!" exclaimed Raven Eye, floating as quickly as he could towards the armour. Major Fearinome shook his head slightly, still not appearing to share Raven Eye's enthusiasm. "Okay, young fellow, here is your chain-mail suit of armour. You may not be aware of this, but you have actually created this yourself in the ocean of consciousness." "Fantastic!" Raven Eye grasped at the chainmail armour. "Can I put it on?" "Well, it is a protective cloak that you have created, Raven Eye, so, yes, by all means put it on. In fact," the Major looked a little sad, "it is fundamental that you do put it on, so you can truly feel the protection you have created." Raven Eye did not appear to have detected Major Fearinome's sad demeanour, so enraptured and proud was he of his creation. "Brilliant!" He grabbed at the chainmail armour and slung it over his head. "Ah, look at me. I'm a true knight now. Nobody will be able to hurt me when I wear this protective cloak." The Major did not respond. He simply stood still, silently watching Raven Eye. After a short while, Major Fearinome asked, "So, how does it feel?" The smile on Raven Eye's face had vanished, to be replaced with a look of trepidation. "To be honest, it doesn't feel as good as I thought it would." "It is important for you to truly feel this protective cloak. Describe how it feels." Major Fearinome twiddled his moustache, still watching Raven Eye intently. Raven Eye grimaced. "Remember your honesty and humility, young chap." The Major moved closer to Raven Eye. "How does your protective cloak honestly feel?" Raven Eye's head dropped and his shoulders slumped. "It feels really heavy, like it is literally weighing me down." Raven Eye noticed his feet sinking into the sand with the sheer weight of the chainmail. "It also feels like it's really restricting my movement," he exclaimed, attempting to yank his feet up out of the sand. "And the chains are hurting me. They are rubbing on my skin and hurting me." Raven Eye fell to his knees under the weight of the protective cloak. "Bless you, dear boy, for being so honest," the Major gently responded. "Each link in this chainmail is a protective thought you have created. A thought that you felt would protect you in situations where you have felt frightened or frustrated. Those protective thoughts have grown so much they have created this chainmail protective cloak. So, now you have felt the effect of your protective thoughts, what have you learned? The Major smiled kindly at Raven Eye, who looked quite ashamed in this moment. I guess I've learned that all those protective thoughts have weighed me down, and that in trying to protect myself from being hurt, I've actually caused myself more pain. Raven Eye began to cry as these realizations struck him. His tears merged with the ocean and disappeared instantly. I've also learned that in trying to protect myself, I've really restricted myself because I'm always on the defensive, and it has left me feeling a bit stuck, literally stuck in the mud. Raven Eye managed a wry smile as he looked down at his sinking feet. Bravo, dear chap! The Major jovially clapped Raven Eye on his back. So, do you still want to wear that chainmail armour? No, I don't, cried Raven Eye, tugging at the protective cloak to remove it. Ah, not so fast, young lad, the Major cautioned. This protective cloak has been created over many years. It cannot simply be yanked off in one go. Now you must see the conflict your protective thoughts have caused, so you can bring peace and calm to them. The Major ignored Raven Eye's shaking head. You are ready to go into your battlefield. My battlefield? Exclaimed Raven Eye in shock. I didn't know I had a battlefield. Where is it? It is on the ocean surface, Raven Eye. Pointing upwards, the Major continued. It may be calm here, deep down in the ocean. However, you need to see what your protective thoughts have created on the surface. The Major pulled himself up to full height, which was still tiny. Time to be brave, Raven Eye. Time to face the battle zone you have caused. You will not be alone. Major Fairy Gnome pointed to the thousands and millions of Fairy Gnome soldiers who had all been patiently witnessing the scene, awaiting orders. Are you ready, Raven Eye? Raven Eye's head was spinning, and yet he knew with certainty that he had to do this. Yes, I'm ready, he responded calmly. I'm responsible for this mess, so I need to sort it out. Now don't be too hard on yourself, young fellow. You are not to beat yourself up over this. You should be giving yourself a pat on the back for facing your fears. Now that is what I call a true warrior, brave enough to face his own fears with honesty and humility. Hearing these words, Raven Eye's head lifted and his eyes brightened. Thank you, Major, he grinned. Now it's time for me to truly see what I have caused up there. Bravo! Yelled all the Fairy Gnome soldiers, rushing towards the sailing ship. All aboard capability! Raven Eye followed as quickly as he could, still weighed down by the chainmail armour, and yet feeling a little light on his feet, now he was being helped by the Pherognomes. Onward and upward, commanded Major Fairy Gnome. The capabilities sail billowed in response, and the brave soldiers embarked on their journey to the surface. Capability rose towards the surface, gently at first, until she came closer to the surface. Then things began to get a little turbulent. There's a storm up ahead, shouted Major Fairy Gnome, steadying himself on the ship's mast. Batten down the hatches, fellows! Capability began to pitch and roll as the sea became quite tempestuous. Raven Eye clung onto a nearby railing, feeling rather useless as the protective cloak continued to weigh him down. "We'll be breaking through onto the surface any moment, fellows." Major Fearonome looked upwards, tiny hands clutching his tiny telescope. "It looks pretty darn chaotic up there. Battle stations, everyone." The Fearonome soldiers moved efficiently around the ship, preparing it for the surface breakthrough. "Here we go, everyone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast through!" Raven Eye closed his eyes, listening intently to the Major's countdown and feeling a growing sense of trepidation as to what lay up ahead. "Don't worry, dear boy," the Major shouted above the storm. "We're all in this together, and you are more than capable of sorting this out." "I feel so useless," wailed Raven Eye, slumping further down on the deck, head in hands. With an almighty roar, capability broke through the ocean's surface. Still clinging onto the ship's rail, Raven Eye dared to open his eyes. Recoiling in horror, he stared aghast at the scene before him.